you're watching India Today Global with me, Ishita Mitra, and the big story we're tracking today is the US election. Now, the world just witnessed its oldest democracy go to polls. The voting has closed and results have started trickling in. It was a crucial election, a closely contested one between Republicans Donald Trump and Democrats Kamala Harris. Now, who will become the 47th President of the United States? We'll get to know in a few hours. But one key voting bloc in this election was the Indian diaspora. So joining me now to explain more about the role of Indians in this election is an Indian-American politician, Burt Thakur. He's joining us from Texas. So thank you, Burt, for joining us on India Today Global.
Ishita, thank you so much for having me. And to everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in.
All right. So my first question to you is, what's the mood on ground like right now? Who do you think has a better chance of making it to the Oval Office?
Donald Trump. And the mood is exciting, for lack of a better term. As Indians, we have a history that goes back thousands and thousands of years. And one of the greatest things that I have been able to share is the value that India, Hindustan, Bharat, whatever you want to call it, has had on the United States of America. During the British occupation of India, some scholars estimate somewhere north of $40 trillion was taken from India's economy. And during the 18th and 19th century, 60% of America's entire economy came from England. And if 80% of England's entire economy came from India, do the math. How much do you think India has contributed to the growth of the United States? So for me, for us, this is a powerful representation of our voice. I think Donald Trump is going to take it. I think Donald Trump is arguably the best chance that the U.S. has for not only expanding our sphere of influence, but also continuing a joint partnership with India, especially the India that Mr. Modi has had the privilege, honor, and also discipline of creating since his tenure as PM.
So we have seen the rise of Indian Americans in the field of politics in US, whether it was contesting themselves or engaging in endorsing both the candidates. So explain to our viewers, what were the key issues that you think Indian Americans must have voted on?
Well, you bring up a very interesting point, is the role that we have in the United States. We can't talk about this election without talking about Vivek Ramaswamy. You have the first American of Indian origin. He was born here in the US. Yeah. So you have the first American of Indian origin who is a Hindu, who has elevated to the top of the choices of presidential candidates, arguably has become a thought leader, and arguably has become one of the leaders of the modern GOP or Republican Party. Here we have a multi-party system, but realistically, it's the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. So we can't underscore the influence that Indian Americans have in the United States. Also, in small dollar donations, Indian Americans are the largest subset for political donations. We have a very powerful voice. To go back to your original questions, what are issues that I see that I've been talking to people about that they care about, especially from our community? First and foremost has to be immigration. Illegal immigration in the United States has reached I don't know how else to put it, but I have never seen anything like this since we immigrated here. I remember when I came to this country, it was 1990 with my parents, and there weren't that many of us. Now, obviously, our voice has grown, but over the last 3 years, the type of flux, if you will, of illegal entry into the United States is something that we have never seen. I'm a big voice for the voiceless in our community. But what I mean by that is we have over 1.5 million Indians who are here on H-1B visa status.
Yes.
In order for them to go from H-1B to green card, you have to wait until the State Department processes an application. Some of these people have wait times. Are you ready for this? Of 150 to 200 years before they go from H-1B to green card, which means their grandkids will be in hospice by the time that their application for a green card for permanent residency gets approved. Meanwhile, people are coming streaming across the border. And I've been to the border. I've driven the entire length. So is Vivek. So is Donald Trump. And I've seen people stream across. They're in New York City. People who are coming here illegally are getting $10,000 a month on a debit card. This is not talk. This is not made. This is happening. They are replacing veterans. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran who served during 9/11, and they're replacing veterans who have been put inside of hotels. They are being used essentially to create a large voting bloc. And the other thing is they're giving permanent residency status.
Okay.
Also, healthcare is another big thing for us out here. The average cost of healthcare right now is in excess of $800 per person. An illegal immigrant, for example, in California, if you look at the rules, up through the age of 25 gets free healthcare. Education is a huge deal. The cost of education is skyrocketing. We don't have enough jobs. The cost of homes are going up because of inflation. The cost of basic goods are going up. Now, it's not as pronounced necessarily as it was, during the 70s or during the 30s, but people are definitely feeling the strain on the pocketbook, specifically the working class. It's happening all over the world.
And these are very crucial issues from economy to education to jobs, and as well as the impact of both the wars going on right now in the world. Okay, so keeping your political allegiance aside, as an Indian American, tell me, what is the view of Kamala Harris right now within the community?
I just think it's very interesting that Kamala Harris has never really relied on her Indianness until she needed it.
Okay.
I lived in California. I remember when she was the Attorney General, and nobody knew she was Indian. Nobody. Nobody had an idea. Now, do I respect the fact that we are living in an age where you have multiple people who have an Indian origin that are in prominent levels of government? Sure. But as an Indian, where was Kamala Harris when Vivek Ramaswamy was being attacked by Donna Brazile on a very famous TV show, on the Bill Maher show, when Donna Brazile was saying, how do I say his name? Vivek? And it brought me to when I was younger. In case you're wondering, why is my name Burt, right? Yeah. My name is Siddharth. My nickname is Sonu. But when we moved to the States, nobody could pronounce it. Nobody. And I used to get into fights all the time. And my mother changed it to Albert, so it would be easier for me to get. And I remember when I heard Donna Brazile say that on Bill Maher, and making fun of Vivek's name, Vivek, to the point where even Bill Maher turned around and said, hey, that's racist. That's wrong. Yeah. His name is Vivek. So where was she in his defense as a fellow Indian, defending another Indian? If we are so hung up on her name, Kamala versus Kamala,
yeah, of course,
where was she defending his name against the top Democratic strategist? So to me, it's if you're gonna claim you're Indian, defend Indians. If somebody made fun of a Democrat because of their Indian origin, I'd be the first one to jump up and be like, you're wrong. Stop. Don't. It's common sense, right? So the proof is in the pudding.
All right. Okay, so my last question to you is, how do you think the presidency of either of the two candidates would impact India-US ties? Given that you don't know who's winning as of now.
All I know is that the Biden-Harris administration released billions of dollars to Iran. The Biden-Harris administration, it took every other country pulling out of the summits and Narendra Modi going in order for him to be widely received. I remember when Donald Trump was in office, Howdy Modi was arguably one of the biggest things that happened here in the United States, and consequently Howdy Trump. I think the Five Eyes alliance that Donald Trump created to essentially create an early warning system, if you will, in the Pacific Ocean, was something that created a an opportunity for India-U.S. relations, the likes of which had never been seen. Under Donald Trump, Governor Abbott, who is the governor of Texas, has created a trade partnership with India where essentially we are trade partners. You know, Gavin Newsom has chosen China. Texas has chosen India. And Dan Patrick and John Cornyn and all these people who are in part of Ted Cruz, who are part of the Texas government, the state and federal government, have created inroads with India, the likes of which we have never seen. I think that right now, with the specter of China trying to create the One Belt and Road Initiative, in essence, the new Silk Road, with their eyes on Taiwan, with the string of pearls that's being created in the South China Sea and Indian Ocean, I think a strong leader like Donald Trump, who understands Xi Jinping, who has a very healthy relationship with Narendra Modi, who understands that the balance of the world depends on an India-U.S. relationship. Okay, that is absolutely necessary. I think somebody like that is going to be essential for the joint growth of India and the United States. Whereas I see Kamala Harris being the
No, now you can't do
opposite
this.
of that.
You can't do this. You can call her Kamala Harris.
I say this: Vice President Harris,
Yes.
if she were to become president, I see that as a detriment to U.S.-India relationships. Do I think U.S. and India will get along? Sure, but do I think that the strength of the two nations will be unleashed with her in office? No.
You know, you mentioned the Modi Howdy event. So I just want to ask you that you discussed about the relationship under the administration of Trump and Biden. But when we talk about the personal relationship between, let's say, Modi and Trump and Modi and Biden, so how do you compare these two? I wouldn't mention Kamala Harris because we've not seen that kind of engagement between Modi and Harris. So how do you assess that?
I have to go off social media. I've never been in the rooms with either Trump and Modi together or Modi and Biden together. But I have to go off what I see in social media and what I hear on interviews. I hear Trump say favorable things about Narendra Modi on Joe Rogan, on multiple huge platforms. I hear him talk well about India. I hear him put out pro-India statements. I see him. He had this campaign that was going on. I think that there was a gentleman named Shali Kumar who put this whole campaign about Trump, and Trump was speaking Hindi. I mean, at the end of the day, he made the effort, and he brought Indians up to a spotlight, the likes of which we've never seen. Vivek Ramaswamy was brought up on stage by Donald Trump, even though he ran against him.
Yeah.
He's elevated, in a sense, the voice of our people. And Donald Trump speaks very favorably of Narendra Modi and India and the Modi administration. Aside from a couple comments by Joe Biden, I really don't know his thoughts. And I don't think I've ever heard Vice President Harris say anything about Modi. I mean, she does speak about her grandmother. She does say my grandmother was an immigrant here, but aside from that, and this is me being completely blunt. I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to be funny here. I'm actually being serious. I don't think I've ever heard her say.
You talked about peace, and so I want to ask you, how do you think either of the presidencies would impact the ongoing wars right now? You know, you have Russia-Ukraine war and you have Israel-Hamas war.
I am a veteran of
especially because of that.
Yeah, I'm a veteran of Operation Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom. I served during 2000, 2006. I went to high school 1 block away from the World Trade Center, and I was in boot camp when 9/11 happened. My best friend committed suicide after we got out. I've known people were not here anymore. I hate war. Well, the way that we pulled out of Afghanistan on August 26, 2021 was the most shameful, worst thing I've ever seen. That's actually what propelled me into politics. I couldn't stand it anymore. And I think under Joe Biden has had, I've been very critical on this on social media. Joe Biden has the worst foreign policy I've ever seen. I couldn't even imagine. Every single move has been disastrous. His appointees have done more to destroy the stability of the world than anyone else. In fact, Vice President Harris went to the Ukraine, and a month later, the Ukraine war popped off.
Yeah.
If the warning to Iran and the mullahs there is, don't do it, or like Joe Biden said, don't do it, or Harris's stern warning is no. Okay, really? If we're spending $250 billion on Ukraine, whatever the cost, at this point, we have to look at it from a standpoint that there are multiple places in the world that have nuclear weapons that are engaged in conflicts. This is a very dangerous thing. Israel has nuclear weapons. Russia has nuclear weapons. Like, this is dangerous. I think Donald Trump has shown, look, under Donald Trump, you had Egyptian planes or Israeli planes flying over Egypt's airspace. North Korea came out of his hermit kingdom, regardless of what you say. I mean, man, that guy even got the Taliban to sit down with him. And there's a famous story now where he apparently pulled out a picture of the leader's house, and he said, if you make one move, I mean, I want Donald Trump because I'm tired of war. I see Donald Trump as a peacemaker. And at the end of the day, yeah, he's a politician now, but he's a businessman. On the Joe Rogan podcast, he was talking about how he got Kim Jong-un to kind of step out. And apparently he called Kim Jong-un because Obama had told him that Kim Jong-un is going to create a war with the United States. That was the number one threat. So Donald Trump called, and finally, they started talking to each other. And he said to Kim Jong-un, why are you developing this nuclear program? You have miles of beachfront property. You should be developing condos. To me, that's a human being. That is somebody that is so far out of the way that people would think that it disarms you. You know what I mean? And so I want that.
All right. My last question to you is, how do you see the future of America, let's say, if Trump wins or if Kamala Harris wins? What are we looking at?
Half the country is going to be upset, regardless.
Yes.
And we have to build bridges. At the end of the day, we have to be aware of our own mortality, right? Like, one day we're all going to die, and the only thing we can leave behind to people is the world that we have built. Yeah. So if we don't heal this anger, if we don't heal this distrust of our neighbors, and if we don't figure out how to start working together, the world will be in a really dangerous place. And I love our country. I love the ideas that it represents. And I love the fact that we live in a world where we have iPhones and medical advancements, and we're building supercomputers with the most powerful AI, and we have rights, and people of all nationalities, sex, races, creeds, orientations, whatever, they have the same equal rights. I love that. And I think it's worth protecting. So regardless of who wins, obviously I want Donald Trump to win. Obviously I have a belief that Donald Trump will make a better America. But if President Harris ends up being the name for the next 4 years, I'm going to wish her success too. She's going to be the figurehead of the United States, just like Donald Trump would be the figurehead of the United States for the next 4 years. And I think regardless of who wins, the only way that America wins is if we stop hating each other and we start realizing that what What truly makes America great isn't a leader. What makes America great is its kindness, its love for its neighbor, its love for human rights, its love for success, its love for innovation. And this idea, the same idea I had when I flew into America, that, hey, it was going to be the shining beacon on the hill where anything is possible. That's
The American dream.
Yeah, and I want it for I want it for Americans, and I would love to see the next 4 years. I would love to see the next 4 years where America and India develop such strong ties that they start growing together in a way that neither nation could have foreseen. That's what I want.
All right. Well, that's the message we'll leave you with. And of course, in a few hours from now, we'll get to know who actually becomes the president of US. So thank you so much for speaking to us on India Today Global. And we'll continue to bring you more updates on US elections.